This is Damian Macy, and representing the Friends of the Marshall Public Library on our oral history project. And this is Tuesday, August the 11th of 2015. And I have with me today a lady from Marshall. Her family is growing up here. She went to Marshall schools and is now a teacher in those schools. And with that I'll introduce you to Clare Beaven.
Thank you, Damian. I first want to thank you for doing this because I think this is wonderful way to preserve our history. So in thinking about this, where and when I was born, obviously in 1955, and I will say that, Terre Haute, Indiana was the place to go to have babies. And so that's where I was born, was in Union Hospital in Terre Haute. And my dad is Lowell Kuntz, and my mom is Betty Kuntz. And I smile when I think about the story of the night I was born. I was born earlier in the day, but my dad had to go bowling that night, of course. And my mother still talks about that Dad, wasn't there in the evening, that he thought the bowling took priority. But of course, in 1955, it was different. Men weren't that much a part of the birthing process. And so I think she eventually got over it. But
that mother's name is?
Betty Kuntz. Yeah.
So Dad wasn't there.
He was there when I was born, but he left to go bowling. And she reminds me of that every year on my birthday. So I like that story. My brother is Kent Kuntz, and he is 5.5 years younger than I am to the day. And so when he came along, I thought, oh my, am I going to like this baby boy that's coming around? But he and I have grown to be very close and have a great relationship. And so I like that a lot. He actually lives in Evansville, Indiana now with his family, wife and 2 children. So that's my only brother, but good family and a great family to grow up in. I obviously am a Marshall native. Now, my dad was from northern Indiana. His dad was a United Methodist minister, or a Methodist minister, and so he traveled around and moved here, and that's how Mom and he got together. So he was kind of a displaced Midwesterner, but he ended up, spending the rest of his life in Marshall. Dad worked in Terre Haute for 40 years at Hillman's downtown. My mom was pretty much a stay-at-home mom, which wasn't unusual, for that time period. But she wouldn't have thought of doing anything else, I don't think. Now, she did work a little bit for the Western Auto, and it was located where the library is currently located. So that was kind of her fun money, I think, was to work for Western Auto and those few days. But
you mentioned your dad working for Hillman's.
Yes.
Did he start with Bigwoods?
I don't think so.
Okay, Herb Schaffner, I know they wrote together.
Yes.
Herb started at Bigwoods, and then it was acquired by Hillman's, but I couldn't recall.
That could be. To the best of my knowledge, he was with Hillman's from the get-go. Yeah. So, but with Mom being the stay-at-home mom, she was always there for us, and I think that's something that children miss out on a lot now. It was something that she would always say to me, I never knew who you were going to bring home with you. If I needed to have lunch prepared or whatever, I would do. But somehow Mama was always able to whip something up, pull something out of the fridge. And I think people knew that, my friends knew that and loved going there because Mom was just a great cook and always made everybody feel so comfortable. So I really, really appreciate that part of it with her. Our neighborhood, I started off, my first house that I remember living in was on Locust Street. And it was actually 209 Locust Street. So everything that we did, I could walk to come uptown, to the library and to the candy kitchen and to walk around the square and do all those things. And we had a great neighborhood of children. Paul Martin's family, he was a former pharmacist and drugstore owner. His family lived right next door to us.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think who else would be people that we might remember. But it was great. I mean, we stayed out until it got dark and the street lights came on. We rode our bicycles, and we just had good times. And so that was
You didn't
nice.
spend all your time texting them, did you?
No, we did not. We did not. But I lived in that house. We lived there until I was in second grade. And then my family purchased the home of Jim and Virginia Claypool on Cherry Street. And Jim was a former insurance guru, and Virginia was the home ec teacher for Marshall High School. And so, we moved there, and that's been our family home since then, which would have been around 1963, is how long Mom and Dad would have had that place since then. So now that neighborhood was totally different. It was older people. It was more established people who lived in that area. And yet, in a way, it had such great advantages too. I spent a lot of time sitting on the front porch in swings with our neighbors. I would walk around the block to Zila Sater's house and have lemonade with her. It was just different than being in the neighborhood where there were so many kids. But
do you think those two neighborhoods have changed extensively? I don't mean just people, but has the neighborhood changed quite a bit since?
Absolutely, they have. I know they have. I drive down Locust Street, and visually, the house that we lived in doesn't even look the same. It's been remodeled and changed. And I don't know about it being as much a family area. The people that are in Mom's area now are people that may be single people that live there. There are a few families, but not so much even elderly people, because there was an apartment that was across the street that's not there anymore that housed, older people. So, yeah, it's changed. It has, both of them.
Where did you go to school? To the south?
I went to
side?
South School, yes, I did. I did South School, and that was the nice part about being on Cherry Street then, was because we could just walk, and that's what I did. And it was just a few blocks, and so that worked out really well. And then, of course, junior high and high school, we did have a bus that would take us down and drop off near South School, kind of like they still do that now. So I would ride the bus, even though I was in town like that. And then when I got in high school, fortunately, I got a car that, I don't know what it was. It was old. I just know it was old.
But it got you there.
It got me there. It got me there and back. So, yeah, I graduated from Marshall High School in 1973. And, then it was for women or for girls. There weren't a lot of options open at that time to think about, what do I want to be when I grow up? I always thought I wanted to be a teacher. I had a wonderful, all my teachers were good, but Ruth Freenberger was my second grade teacher. And she impressed me so much and invited me to her home and did things that teachers can't do these days, and so I love that, and I thought, I'm going to be a teacher.
Was she at the South School?
She was at South, yeah. Both she and Helen Jane Freenberger were, and I had both of them, but Ruth was my favorite. She was just very easygoing and kind, so.
Was there a favorite subject that you had?
I always loved reading. Still do. Still do. And I think my mom says that Debbie Martin, our neighbor, taught me how to read before I went to school. And that's probably true, because she was enough older than I was, and she would work with me and we'd play school. And so I probably did know how to read before I went to school, but still love to read. Still do.
Was there a teacher or some particular situation that said, I really want to become a teacher?
Yeah. I like I said, with Miss Freenberger, she sang in class. We did wonderful things that weren't just book learning, and I think that really made a difference with me.
Stays on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Indiana State was the most logical place to go for education, and at that
Heard of
time,
that place.
absolutely. And so I had the opportunity to go there, and fortunately, Mom and Dad let me live on campus, and to only be 20 miles away, I was pretty lucky to be able to do that. And I was a Sparkette, which was at the dance corps, which was fun and gave us a lot of good adventures and trips places. But truly what I enjoyed, I'm sure the most, was once I got into my core classes of teaching, because that's where the difference was going to be. That's what I wanted to do.
Was Martha Ann?
She was
taking
there,
care of the
Martha Ann
Sparkettes then?
Markle. Yes, she was. And her husband, Jim. Yep, yeah. And it's, they don't make them like Martha Ann anymore. She's a fantastic woman. And for them to be able to take care of 40 teenage girls was a big job for them, I know. So, but I enjoyed it. And when I graduated from there, I thought, now where do I go for a job? And so I applied. There was an opening in Marshall right after I graduated for second grade, of all things. And I interviewed for it, and it was Mr. Eaglin, who was the superintendent at that time. And he hired me for the job. And I took it as a one-year position because the teacher was taking a leave of absence at that time. So I had a fantastic time. I taught with Leela Pancake and Daryl E. Smith. We're both second grade teachers with me. We taught the first year in the new wing at North School, so that was in 1977 when that new primary wing was added on. So I taught that year, and I kept thinking, what am I going to do after this first year? Is she coming back? So I started applying other places, and I accepted a position in Avon, Indiana, to teach second grade over there. And so the day that I went to tell Mr. Eaglin, it was like in August, and I said, I came to tell you I've accepted another job. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, I just found out that the teacher is not coming back.
Wow.
So anyway, I took it as, okay, it's time for me to get out for a little while, to do something different. So I did. I went ahead and I taught in Indiana for 5 years. Started my master's degree at Indiana State, took classes and taught. Met my husband, Lee, at Indiana State. He was working on his PhD in geography, and I was taking a class across the hall from where he was. And so it just kind of grew from there. We were together about 5 years, and then he took a job in Canada on the Queen Charlotte Islands. He originally, his home, his family was from Vancouver.
I didn't.
Yeah. So the first year he went out there, and I thought, oh boy, how's this going to work out? But my mom and dad had an interesting experience, because the following year, my brother got married on August the 6th. Lee was coming back to be in the wedding, for the wedding. And when he came back, he said, we might as well just go ahead and get married. I'm not getting any younger. And I said, no, you're not, neither am I. So we got married on August the 4th. And 2 days later, my brother and sister-in-law got married on August the 6th. And
in what year was that?
That was 1983.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lee and I loaded up my 1978 beautiful blue Camaro. I wish I had it to this day. And took everything that I could personally in that and drove out to the west coast of Canada. We took a ferry up to the Queen Charlotte Islands, Lee was doing research there. We were there 1 year. And while I was there, I tutored and I substituted and did some other things. After that, we moved into the Canadian Rockies for a year.
Beautiful.
Yeah, up in the Banff, up in that area. And then we moved to Saskatchewan for the next 5 years, where Lee taught at the University of Saskatchewan. And yeah, that's where both of our boys were born. Lowell was born 29 years ago today, which is hard to believe. And then Andrew was born, he's 26. So both of the boys were born there. And although we had great adventures and it was wonderful, Lee said to me after the boys were born, we need to get back to the Middle West. We need to get back to around your parents and Marshall, because the quality of life and the people that are there and the supportive family is invaluable. It meant so much.
What were you teaching in Saskatchewan?
I wasn't teaching there, but Lee was, and he was in the geography department.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but you know, when we came back, I didn't want to be the whiner wife and say, I want to go home, even though in my heart, my mind, I did. But we did move back, and that was in 1990. So kind of come full circle. Our boys, of course, have gone to school in Marshall, and both graduated and doing well. As far as Lee, he's been busy doing a variety of things, from sales to service types of things, to volunteer, to teaching. He volunteers with the 4-H club and does those kinds of things. I started off teaching when I came back part-time at Lincoln Trail College, and I taught adult education. I've taught GED classes. I taught Title I reading at both South School and North School, and I've taught 4th grade as well. So it's been a busy few years, and then 8 years ago, I've taken my job as principal at North School. So it's amazing that
That would have been 2007 then.
Correct. So I came pretty much full circle, Damien, with my own personal life in Marshall, starting out in 1977 as a teacher there, all of my adventures in between, and then coming back as the principal in the school where I started. And I think that's pretty cool. It makes me happy to think that that's the way it all worked out. So,
Did you ever look back and say, oh gosh, that would be kind of nice to have stayed in Canada?
There are times that I think about it, but no. You know, we, again, our family and the quality of life that we have here, the medical advantages that we have here, you know, the quality of schools, and we wanted our boys to know their grandparents, and Lee's parents had both passed away, and he was an only child, so.
I was getting ready to ask if he had any family yet in Canada.
Yeah, and so it was a great place to come back to and to call our home. Our home is on Route 1 South, and I love it. It was built in 1904, and the Finkbeiners were the previous owners to that home, and then before them, the Imels family lived there. And so we have a beautiful brick house and some acreage and some woods that we just enjoy thoroughly. And we've had different animals that have been a part of our family, both inside and out. And but you know, the boys love growing up there, and I never worried about them either. You know, they would get on four-wheeler, or they go fishing, or they would, just play in the yard with balls and basketballs and things. And life is good, when you don't have to worry about those outside forces so much.
As a youngster, was there some hobbies or anything that you had that you might have brought forward and participated in even today?
I was trying to think about I play the piano. And I started piano lessons, I don't know, I think I was probably in second grade. That was a big year. I took from Helen Tarman in Martinsville. Tarman, I think.
Sure, was it Ruth Tarman?
That's who it was, Ruth. That's who it was,
She was
Ruth.
my teacher also.
Are you kidding me? Okay, it wasn't. Why? I don't know where Helen came from, but Ruth is right. Yeah.
Sister-in-law.
That's exactly right. Exactly. So I took from her for many years. It's interesting. Andrew said to me the other day, "Mom, how did you learn how to do that on the piano?" And I said, because I had one of the best piano teachers there could have been. And so I took from her for several years. And then Mom had me take someone in Terre Haute for a while too. But that would probably be the hobby or the enjoyment that I've done over the years the most. Mom would always say whenever there was work to do, I would go play the piano. And she said, and so, I didn't want to make you quit practicing. So
She didn't have to make you practice it either, did she?
I think I got out of some things that she probably would have rather I would have done. But
Do you find sometimes even today, after maybe a lesson, super day, you can relax and unwind by sitting down at the piano?
Exactly. And I still play the piano for our church, Emmanuel, United Methodist Church, which is, again, a place where we've come full circle. My grandparents and my mom and, everyone grew up there going to church. And so that again is coming back home, to that security of the place where you've grown in your faith and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Did you participate in any music programs at Indiana State?
I did not. I did the dance and the marching part of it, but I didn't do anything like that. But in high school, of course, I played in the band. I played clarinet. All of the things I sang in the choirs. I guess music is like you say, kind of a release, kind of a enjoyment. So, yeah.
I guess to those hobbies and all, did you ever think you might want to make music a career?
I didn't think I was good enough.
I didn't either.
I never thought I had that kind of talent or ability, because I thought, golly, and maybe I didn't want to work hard enough at it. I don't know if that's part of it too. But
I think generally it's difficult to make a living.
Yes.
Unless you are just simply
a gifted, recital
quality all the time.
Exactly. So mine just became, I love playing for family. I'll play for weddings and funerals and, like I said, for church and that kind of thing. But
how about the boys? Do they participate in any music?
They did. Both of them took piano lessons as well. Now, they took from Diane Reed's in Martinsville, too.
Known her for years.
Yeah, Andrew pursued it longer than Lowell did. Andrew took through high school. Lowell will still be able to go and sit down and play out a few things at a time. But then Lowell played the trumpet in band in Marshall, and Andrew played percussion. So they were both, still had that music background and still will enjoy. They'll sit down and play like duets and things on the piano now still, just for fun. So
you obviously have a piano at home.
I do. Yeah.
You mentioned working on your master's degree, and that was at Indiana State.
Correct.
I said. Was there a time that you thought, well, maybe I might want to try another career?
The only other career I ever thought of was to be a travel agent, and I don't call that a career, really. But I think it's because I wanted to travel. Okay. So I thought, oh boy, wouldn't that be exotic if you could plan other people's vacations and then get yours for free. So that was my plan, but that never happened. So no, it was always an education. And then after I did that, I did my administrative hours at Eastern to do that. So yeah, I've got my master's plus 32 on top of that. So.
With that thought of love of travel, have you gone back to Canada, to where some places maybe where you lived?
We have kept in contact with people. We have not been back there yet. And of course, we keep saying, now this year we're going to go. This year we're going to go. We have thoroughly enjoyed traveling more in the United States and, you know, seeing things that are even as close by as up the road, you know, an hour from here.
So many wonderful things to see.
Really, really. And I just think in our area, we get into Lincoln. We love Springfield. It doesn't matter how many times you go there. You're still in awe with all of it. To think that Lincoln was in Marshall is amazing, you know, just across the street, walking around. Yeah. So, you know, maybe someday we will, you know, make that trip. But really, once we came here, we pretty much just said, we're back.
Is there a favorite place that you like to visit?
I'm trying to think what would be a favorite. We love Illinois. We love southern Illinois, to go down on the Ohio River and just go sit there and watch the barges go by.
You've been to the Garden of the Gods?
We have. And then on the opposite end of the state, we love to visit Chicago. Would not want to live there, but we love the museums. We love the lakeside. So, you know, I mean, I feel like everything we need is just right where we are. You know, just right here. You can get the best of all of it. You're kind of centrally located from Indianapolis and St. Louis if you want to do something, you know, a little bit more that Marshall doesn't have. But it amazes me what Marshall does have for a small community, and I think it's wonderful.
And some people don't realize it either.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So
your two boys have ventured out on their own.
They have.
And doing some exciting things, it sounds like.
They have.
What
are they doing?
Elaborate on what they're doing.
Sure. Lowell went to McKendree College in Lebanon for his college days, and then it's since switched over to McKendree University. But his degree actually was a sociology degree in criminal justice and with a management minor. Now, has he used that? No. But it's okay. It's okay. He started off, he's worked for Floyd Pancake at State Farm when Floyd was still the State Farm rep here in town. Worked for him for several years and enjoyed that. He has worked on farms with people. He's a hard physical laborer type of guy. And in the last 3 years has been at Marathon Refinery and absolutely loves his job. I think that this is Mom being prejudiced, but I think he has potential to do, you know, many things within that company just because he's, in my opinion, a good worker and has the ability to do that. So that's what he's doing. Andrew is completing his PhD in chemistry at the University of Kansas. He did his undergrad at Indiana State. And this fall, actually, day after tomorrow, Friday, we're taking him to O'Hare. He'll be flying to Seoul, South Korea for the semester to study abroad at the National University of Seoul. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So he's doing wonderful things as well and had a lot of opportunities. He'll finish up his PhD when he returns in January, and then we'll decide if he's going to still go to school and do postdoctorate or get out in the workforce. So we'll see.
Is he thinking about teaching? Or?
I think it's always in the back of his mind. I think he knows that he can do that. I think research is his love. I think he would, if his dream would be if he could discover something or figure out something that someone else hasn't. How exciting would that be?
So his PhD will be in?
It's a multidisciplinary chemistry. So I call it biophysical chemistry.
Oh my.
So it's biology, physics, and chemistry combined. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they're good boys. They continue to grow and do well, and we're thankful for them.
We can certainly be proud of them and their accomplishments.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, you are back home, and they're kind of going, maybe at least one of them, the other way.
Yes.
Is there ever a thought that, gosh, will he ever come back to Marshall?
I think about it. This short term with Andrew, I'm thinking he will be back. It's not like he's going to move over there for the rest of his life, I don't think. But I don't know. I don't think he has his ties here. There's no doubt. But I think his opportunities may not be right here. And so, that's okay. I encourage him for places that are within a 10-hour drive. That's good for me. I can do that. So we'll see how it all plays out in the next year for him.
Are you kind of hoping maybe they would settle down in Marshall? From a parent standpoint.
From a parent standpoint, I don't. I think that it would be a positive thing, there's no doubt, for their personal lifestyle. And yet I don't want to say, oh, I want you, it's kind of like me saying to Lee, I want to go home. I don't want to say that to them either. It'll be interesting to see how it all goes. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure they keep close touch with Mom and Dad.
They do. And that's, I think that's one of the things that has changed so much with us, you and I, or anyone else at our stage in life, that the way we communicate with families has changed so immensely. I think about, when I was in college, I called home on a collect call and on a pay phone, and Mom would always answer oh yes, and she said there were a lot of times she didn't want to, but that's the way I would communicate with them. Andrew being gone, we've already got our FaceTime and everything. We know we're going to be able to communicate, halfway around the world like that. And it's cell phones and, emailing. And so it certainly doesn't, I cannot imagine how a mother would have felt sending her child off to war, and not having any way of knowing what each day was bringing for them. So I'm thankful. There are times technology can get in the way, but I think it's
even the
helping
things
us.
of airmail, it took days before it was delivered, actually, from one place to the other.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a positive thing, I guess, as long as it's not misused and abused.
Kind of coming back to teaching, you've seen some changes, I think, in the teaching in the last 10 or 15 years.
Exactly.
What do you think are some of the most significant things?
I think about our community here, Damien, and I think that the family unit, as what we grew up in remembering, has changed. Children live in multi-households with families and siblings from other families. I'm not faulting parents. I'm not saying it's their fault, but I do think that unity or that, solidness of family is not as strong as it has been. I think economics makes a difference, although, I think that there were people who struggled 50 years ago too. But, the time period now, there's a lot of expectations that are put on people. We talk about the support that kids get from home. It's different, not too much. It's you see it in the number of people who come to an open house or an event at school. Now, I'm fortunate at the younger ages. I think we still have a fairly good support system in that. But, as they get older, the parent involvement becomes less and less. And so that is tough. That is tough. And I don't think that children get the same kind of guidance and being talked to. I tell parents all the time, keep talking to them, don't, and instead the parents are on the cell phone texting and the kids are too, and that lack of communication, I think, among families has really made a difference. So,
I guess I get very irritated. Everyone's texting.
Right.
They don't know who's next to them. They don't know where they are even sometimes.
Exactly.
They seem to be going down the street just trying to avoid people and telephone posts.
Yes. Yeah.
Is this for the better?
No, I don't think it is either. I think that you're exactly right. And I think that that's where, it opens up a whole nother dimension on rivalries and not getting along and, things that are put out there that can't be taken back, or you have to say, I'm sorry. And I don't know, I tend to be the type of person that I read into the written word, so I'm a lot better off talking to someone face to face. And I think that that's where our children are missing out on a lot. I don't know that they're being read to like they used to be. I don't know that they're given, opportunities like used to be, so...
Being involved with the teaching and all, some places, and I guess some states even, have come through with, they don't have to teach cursive writing. To me, that's an abomination.
Yeah,
But
that is a skill that we still teach and practice. Now, to say that it's given as much time as it was 20, 30 years ago, no, it's not. But we still expect our kids to use cursive when they're at school and doing, has to be. I think so too.
how can they fill out applications? Of course, maybe they use the computer.
And that's true.
To write a check, to write their name.
Exactly.
Surely that is a part of education they're going to have to keep up with.
Exactly. And to me, your signature is you.
Whether you can read it or not.
Exactly. But it is, but that's the uniqueness of it, is that it's you. And I think that when you initial something online and it's, who's to say that that was really Damien that did that, So, I think it's important.
I guess at this, maybe in the grade school level even, what is the change in the education with computers?
Okay. It has opened up the world to Marshall. It really has. We, for example, we've had teachers who have done Skyping with a sled dog musher in Alaska. And the kids are actually sitting there and we're watching it on the big screen TV and with the computer and asking him questions back and forth from Wasilla, Alaska. So, I see that going on in the classrooms all the time. It's wonderful. It gives us immediate information. It gives us feedback, not always the best. We monitor that, as far as educationally. But it is amazing that the world has opened up so much more. They can go on a virtual field trip anywhere. And so that part is good, especially if they don't get out of, their small town situation. So that part, is really a positive. So, yeah.
What about the use of something like an encyclopedia? Is there do they even print them anymore? I don't know.
I'm not sure about printed ones. We still have them in our library. But we also have the World Book Encyclopedia online, like the public library does, so I know that. I think that books, the book in and of itself, no matter what, is never going to go away. I hope not. We still use our textbooks, and we supplement with the internet or the iPad or, things that we can pull and resources. So I feel like we're getting the best of both worlds. I've always felt that people who took the time to write the textbooks probably were smarter than I was, and to know, what needed to be taught. And it gives us kind of a springboard then to take it that step farther, that step deeper with the...
I read a while back there was it was a very progressive community somewhere in California, had opened a new library, no books.
Yes, yeah, I can't
And
imagine
that just does not equate to a library
No,
to me.
it doesn't to me either. It does not to me either. So, speaking for North School now, we have a fantastic library. Karen Heighton's the librarian. And then we also, she has developed, has some like books or on the iPads and on that we download like from the cloud, the 3M, the different things. And so, there's everything that's accessible. And children are turned on by that, but they also love books, and they will carry books with them. And the thicker the book, that they love that, so you don't see that when you're reading on a Kindle, you don't realize that you are accomplishing this and reading a book and turning pages and finding out what's next. So I still think books are important. I really do. So,
do some of them feel that the e-book that's the only thing, that's the only book there is?
I don't see that in the children, so much. I think it might be kind of a cool trend to be able to read an e-book, but I don't see them as being solely just to the e-books at all. So, plus the pictures in a picture book, and you can't beat it. You just have to touch those pages and look at it.
Just the feel of the pages
Exactly.
and turning, as you say.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a continued trend of, I guess maybe even in colleges, of maybe not having an instructor up in front, that there will be a big screen and so much of this stuff will be done by media?
I wouldn't be surprised, especially at college level, that it becomes more and more that. I think long distance education, you call it long distance, but I think that, that has continued to develop over time. And when I took we called it a correspondence course, Damien, from Indiana State, back in the 70s, and got a big packet of materials and took it home and sat there with my book and then mailed it in. I think, that's kind of where it's all developed from that. And, to think that you can interact with people like that online and talk to them and talk to your professor and all of that. It's not the same as being in a class. And certainly when I did my correspondence course, I didn't do as well as if I would have been with a class. So,
Some of these schools even, you can get a big part of your degree online.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I have to question, is
I
this
agree.
truly education?
I agree with you. I agree. And I think there are many people who feel that. Yeah. So we'll have to just be open-minded and say, yes, it is. So.
Was there a particular event or something in the world that kind of influenced you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There were several things. One of the things that I remember was being worried about Cuba as a child. And, the basement at the courthouse being the fallout shelter. And that is a memory to me, worrying, or not worrying, but asking a lot of questions about that. Of course, the death of President Kennedy was, I was in third grade. I know exactly what I was in Ann Kyle's third grade classroom. And we had old black and white televisions. And someone came running down the hall, and Mrs. Kyle got the TV on, and as third graders, we watched that for the rest of the day. And of course, we're off school after that. So, I don't think that anybody who experienced that can ever forget that.
That just seemed to be like an event that everyone...
Absolutely.
And they remember
exactly.
where they were and what they were doing.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. And of course, the Challenger, that was an upsetting or a major event that I think affected us. And of course, 911, I was teaching fourth grade when that took place, and that was a frightening time. We at that time did not share with our children, our younger children, what was going on. But as teachers, we were all trying to get on the internet and trying to find out. Of course, that many years ago, our internet was slow, and we couldn't. Everyone else was trying to do the same thing. But
like, what's next?
Yeah, but those, to me, those were probably first man on the moon. I remember where I was for that one too. We were on vacation out in Colorado, and I remember seeing the newspaper of that. So, but those would probably be the ones that stick out the most in my mind. Yeah.
Is there an individual in your lifetime that has probably influenced you more than anyone else?
One individual, probably not. Parents and grandparents, absolutely. They've just, they were people of faith and of strength and love.
Important.
Yeah, and so that's all the things that, truly influenced me, and they supported me. I made a lot of mistakes, and I still do, but, they're still the ones that are there for me, so.
We've all got so many modern conveniences and things around us everywhere.
Right.
Is there some convenience that you'd say, or some modern thing, I just couldn't live without it?
My car? I think probably, I'm not that much into microwave, and, I'll use my coffee maker and things like that. But as far as things like that, we have never, we watch TV, but it's not, we're obsessed with TV. So we're selective on what we watch. So I could do without my TV. But my car, I think I need my car. So,
I had one lady say she just could not live without her dishwasher.
Yeah, isn't
And
that
someone
funny?
else said their washing machine.
Now, I hadn't thought of the washing machine, because I would like that more than the dishwasher. I don't mind washing dishes. That's something that I don't mind doing. But as far as conveniences, but that's okay.
Claire, if you were on the other side of the globe, say, and maybe in Europe or something, and someone said, "Where are you from?" And you said, "Marshall, Illinois." Where's that and what's that? What would you tell them about our community and why it might be a good place that they'd like to visit?
Exactly.
Sometime?
Typically, when someone will ask me that, even if I'm at meetings or other places, I'll say, I'm about 250 miles south of Chicago. I'm on Route 70, and where 70 and Route 1 and 40 all meet. And I am on the farthest east side, the last little town before you go across the state line into Indiana. So that's the way I describe it as far as location is concerned. But I call us a small rural community. I think we are still small. And yet I think we have advantages to being closer to larger centers. I think that we have great schools. We still have churches and things that go on in our community that I'm very thankful for, that may not culturally happen in other places. I think that makes us very unique. I think we have a great group of people in our community that want to continue to keep the values and things for which Marshall was founded and has had throughout the years. And that is what's made it what it is today. I look at our main street and I think, wow, the storefronts may have changed a little, but it's as thriving now as it would have been when I was a kid growing up. So that's what I would say, just a good community. And most of the time, I think our community people get along with each other. I think there is a camaraderie to a certain extent when we remember that it's what it's about, is keeping it, making it good, making it better. Same with the schools, putting kids first and understanding that it's not, someone's school and their ideas, but it's everybody. And I think that that's another thing that's great about Marshall.
From those days that you were growing up and you were downtown, are there some particular memories that you have about maybe even some of the physical?
Right, yeah. Martin's Drugstore, of course, was where we spent a lot of time. I'm sure there were a lot of other people that have shared that, but we loved it to go in there. The Candy Kitchen was one of the other places that, we'd go there. They always had music going, and you could get your chocolate Coke or your cherry Coke. And the Haw family lived close to us down on Locust Street, so we kind of, knew them from there, and of course the Martins from the drugstore, and so that was always fun. The dime store was a haven to go into. I mean, what a department store, all in one place. And the candies, and I mean, they had it all. And so that was kind of like your own little department store there. Fink Binders, of course, they had a clothing store, which was great. Hedges, my mom would shop at Hedges all the time to get her things. Tom's, the restaurant, which is now the family restaurant. The best dinner rolls in the world. The best, and the pies. So yeah, even though those things are not here, the things that have replaced are holding their strength too. I mean, I love having the family restaurant there. I think that Walmart maybe took away some of the positives, but I think about the Reeds with their smaller pharmacy. There you can still get that personal service in Marshall. I think if you're going to the right places and doing that. So
well, Claire, it's been a delight visiting with you. I think you've hit some of the key points and said what Marshall is all about.
I hope so.
And certainly your family ties, you've seen changes, but yet it's very important to you. And we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your time spent and your comments, because this is a part of history, and that's really for the future to look at.
And that's exciting for me to think about that it is being, for that reason as well. So it's fun to talk about yourself and to tell the great things, but to know that it's working in another way is good.
And everyone has a story, and we appreciate hearing yours.
Thank you so much,
well, thank
Damien.
you. We really appreciate your time.